just a simple man working on the land.
Hey guys, UrbanGothamPrepper here. I decided to do this video on essentially my philosophies on prepping. I have a feeling this is going to be quite a long video. Uh, I have notes that I've been collecting over time as a lot of issues come up in my thought process on how to proceed, things to get for prepping, concepts, what I'm going to do, skills to learn, things like that. And as I started accumulating these questions in my mind, as I got into being a prepper, I started realizing that there were a lot of things that I couldn't find answers to, whether it be on YouTube, web pages, things like that. I call myself the Urban Gotham Prepper because I live in New York City. And as you could probably imagine, there are not a lot of resources in larger cities in the area of prepping as there would be in rural areas, suburban areas, middle of the country, things like that. So I've been very much on my own, trying to figure these things out and learn what I can from what I can scrounge off the internet. And I'm not a professional by any means, but I do spend a lot of time thinking through all sorts of different processes and concepts and things that I'm aiming for. Since this is one of the first videos, a little bit about myself. I do live in New York City. I am a paramedic. I'm an EMS provider here in the city. I've been doing this for about 15 years now, and I guess in the world of emergency care, you do kind of get to see things that open your eyes to problems in society and things that you should be prepared for. And so as I kind of venture on this, I've just started coming up with concepts. So this video is really just about what I found, more so for me, what works for me and my system, how far I've developed it, and a lot of the things that are lacking in it so far. There's no how-to in here. This is not an instructional video. By no means am I saying that this is what you should do. This is really what I do, and I'm hoping that through the course of this discussion, it will prompt you, your loved ones, your friends, people that you might link this video to put a little more thought into the things that you really are preparing for and what really does it mean. I really just want to plant some seeds. I want to get the thought process going, because that's what it's done for me. So that is kind of one of the elements of being a prepper, is sharing with the prepping community and helping each other out. And maybe there's things that you haven't thought of, that some of the things I'm about to speak of will make you reconsider. And I'm hoping, as people view this, maybe you'll leave comments and give me other views and other constructive criticism on the things that I'm thinking of. I can't tell you that you should, go out and do the things the way I'm doing them. A lot of these things aren't going to apply to you if you're somebody who lives, out in the Midwest, or you live in farm country, or you live in, different climates. You live in the Southwest, in Arizona or New Mexico, and you live in a desert type atmosphere. A lot of the things that I am going to prepare for in my situations will be completely inappropriate for you. So I am going to stick more with general concepts to consider. And I'm hoping, if anything, this just sparks discussion. whether it's with me or whether it's with you and your family and your loved ones, your prepper community, whoever it is. So I've kind of made some notes. I kind of wanted to keep it in a little bit of order. A lot of things are going to get out of order, and they might seem very kind of just random spot ideas, like from here up to here and then down to here and whatever. But I'm just going to start talking about some things that that I've thought about. And people talk about use a lot of terms in the prepping world interchangeably that I don't necessarily think that they are. So let's start off with a real high level, high end kind of thing. I want to talk quickly about the differences between survivability, sustainability, and livability. At the most root, basic, essential level of what preppers are preparing for is the ability to stay alive. When whatever you think is going to happen, whatever your anticipations are, whether it be from a localized natural disaster, hurricane, blizzard, tornado, something like that, to the most apocalyptic thoughts of the end of the world and nuclear holocaust and things of that nature that are in most minds almost fictional. The root concept is survivability, staying alive. Survivability is simply the ability to remain alive and continue to exist. It's the most elemental concept. There's nothing more than that, just staying alive. Sustainability is kind of the next step above that, and that's really more of a longer term maintenance of well being and an ability to endure and maintain past just surviving. And then past that is livability. And that's where most of society is now. The society that we know of, there are elements in the world that I wouldn't even say live in livability. But livability is just the element of the resources of common everyday life that provide to progress and advance the way of life. You know, technology, electricity, combustion engines, cell phone service, the internet. These things are all livability. None of these are required to live. Human beings need water, they need food, they need to maintain a core temperature at a certain level, they need to not be infected. As an organism, as a living thing, not as a human being, just as a living organism, we need to consider more than just surviving. So at the very, very like highest echelon of goals to try and attain, I think you want to consider those steps of survivability, sustainability, and then livability past that. When it comes to preparedness and whatever level you want to consider it, whether it's just being prepared on a daily basis for the things that happen in everyday life. I live in the Northeast. Most people, most people north of Georgia, for this matter, have seen what a horrific winter this has been. So the concept of preparedness can just be knowing that it's a really bad winter, and what do I need to know about keeping myself warm, and what kind of changes is that going to make. It can be something like what the city wasn't used to when Sandy hit a while ago, when Hurricane Sandy hit. Most people in New York City don't think of the prospects of being hit by a hurricane. That's something you think of down south in the Gulf and New Orleans and Florida and things like that. So not as many people were prepared, whether it's personally in your own home, whether it's as a society, a community, local, state governments, things like that. But what that translates into is that your daily life, whatever your daily life activities are and how you live are going to dictate what your preparedness level is. Um, you know, your income, how much money you make is going to dictate your preparedness level. Financial resources to commit to being prepared, which is almost everybody's concern, and it's certainly a concern for mine. Um, Even to things like, and I'll get into more discussion of this later, but local laws and security and self-defense and ownership of weapons and things like that. Um, how you work those into your daily life. Like I said, I'll discuss this more later, but just as a base to get your mind thinking, I live in New York City, and unless you are a police officer or someone of substantial political and or legal law enforcement clout, you cannot own firearms in this city, essentially. So my daily life dictates that I don't have the access to the resources that most people have. Um, like for me, because I work in EMS in New York City and I work a desk job at headquarters, um, I face very high security concerns at my workplace. I can't, I have EDC kits that a lot of people show off on the internet, and I've built them, and they contain everything from tools and small blades and razors and utility and all those things. I can't carry any of that with me on my daily commute in and out of work because I can't get them into my workplace. So that strongly dictates my preparedness level. Um, things like city life. I do own a car here in the city. Don't even get me started. It's a headache. But even so, well, a lot of people, you'll see videos where people keep just a bug out bag or a get home bag in the back seat of their car. I don't keep anything of value in my car. I live in New York City. There's a high risk that I'll come back to my car and it won't be there, if the car is even still there. So these are considerations that you make. I mean, people in many urban environments can probably attest to that. But that's something that I would suspect that if you lived like on a homestead, or you lived in a farming community, or a tight-knit suburban or rural community, that's a consideration you wouldn't have. I grew up in a community that was safe enough that when I was a kid, nobody locked their doors. I'm sure there's plenty of communities out there that are like that, and so those considerations are different. Um, I've been getting past urban preparedness, and I've been going back to some of my roots from my childhood when I spent a lot of times up in the Adirondacks in upstate New York, and a lot of time hiking and in the wilderness. And I do miss it quite a bit. And now that I've found the bushcraft community, which is a little bit of an offshoot, but is still associated within a lot of the same principles as prepping, my interest in that is coming back. But I can't just walk out into a backyard and throw up a tent and spend a night in my backyard in a tent practicing bushcraft, throw out a stove and practice cooking over a fire, and fire making techniques and all that thing. I don't have access. I live in a third floor of a walk up in Brooklyn. I mean, I don't have those capabilities when it comes to my preparedness that most people who are preppers will have. So I don't really have that access to nature. And then, for a lot of people, this is 2014. It's a busy world. People don't have a lot of that free time. I have changed a lot of things about my life, just in gathering information and spending time to learn as much as I can. I don't watch TV anymore. I watch YouTube, and I watch the channels of a lot of people that people you'll see that I'll link to at some point in this video for reference material, and that's what I watch. That's my learning process. That's how I get into it, and that's what has stemmed a lot of where this is coming from, is obtaining all this information and processing it and trying to learn from it. And so um, just how you live your daily life can really affect your preparedness level and how you prepare. Um, so I spent a lot of time thinking about it, like how much time do you spend on preparing? Um, I guess the real answer is, how prepared do you want to be? I mean, that seems kind of almost obvious, but I mean, How much control do you want to have over your preparedness? If if your preparedness plan is to just have an extra couple days worth of food in the cupboard, and a couple of flashlights and candles, and whatever happens, you're just going to hunker down at home and hope that all is well, and you spend 20 or 30 extra bucks at the grocery store, and you stock the shelves, and you cross your fingers. As you'll see as I go through this video, and in the future as I produce other videos, my preparedness level is way beyond that. And I'm still in the process. I'm getting there. But I think there really is a very direct correlation between what you want to accomplish and how much time you have to spend to accomplish that. This isn't something where you're just going to go out to the store and go shopping one afternoon and be prepared. If you want to be well prepared, if you want to be competent and knowledgeable and know what to do with the information you have, you need to spend time. Anybody can go out and buy a pre-made 72-hour bag and bring it home and throw it in their doorway. But if you don't know how to use half the stuff that's in there, it's not going to help you. you know, and I guess the most important message is that if you're watching this and you're somebody who hasn't even started yet, and you're just getting into the idea of being a prepper, you just got turned on to Nat Geo's Doomsday Preppers, which I watched for a while. If you're just getting into it, the best thing I can tell you is anything is better than nothing. Start somewhere. There's no rule about what to start with, where to start, what areas, is it food, is it water, is it gear, is it equipment, is it this, that. Just start somewhere. Spend a couple of free minutes. You got 15 minutes of free time. Watch, pick a YouTube video and just watch. Just start somewhere. Learn something. Read, spend $10 on Amazon and buy a preparedness book, and at least start learning. Just do something. It's just got to start somewhere. And that's really all I can say, because that's kind of how I started. I just started somewhere, and I just started doing little things and matching things up, and eventually a lot of stuff just kind of started falling together. All right, so let's talk about the big issue. Money. Money is what do they say? Money is the root of all evil. I mean, it's money doesn't mean anything unless you don't have any, right? You gotta be able to plan. I spend a lot of time thinking through stuff before. I don't just jump right into things very quickly. So that kind of helped financially, that I spent a lot of time learning first before I spent money on devices and objects and things to have in my kit. You got to know what your plans are. You got to know what you're after, what you are preparing for, what you are not preparing for, your concepts, your philosophies, what you think is important to you, before you start going out and spending crap loads of money in stores on all this crap that you probably won't need. Somebody might find it very useful. It doesn't mean it's crap. It just means that it's not. It has no value to you in what you're trying to accomplish. And obviously it'll cut down on wasting money. It'll cut down on stuff that you acquire that you're never going to use. And if you have to, design a financial plan, start a savings account. I mean, people start savings accounts for anything. I mean, I'm a tattooed guy. I used to keep coin jars on the shelf, and every bit of spare change that I ever had went into tattoo jars. Now they go into a savings account that's for preparations and for new equipment and for things like that. And it can be a slow process. It's not a race. I mean, unless you're really, really spooked by something, by economic crisis or whatever threat you might be preparing for. The list is a mile long. Whatever it is that you think you're preparing for, you're always going to be preparing. I don't think there's ever a point where you can say, that's it, I'm done, I'm ready for whatever happens. I don't think anybody's ever really there. Um, so it's a process. Be okay with this taking a little while. Don't, get into it, but don't be so urgent to, like next weekend to be prepared for the end of the world to come. Um, and figuring out what's worth the price. I mean, you got to figure out what kind of money you have to spend, and when it comes to objects, physical objects, a lot of people, you'll see the only other video I have on here. I just wandered into a dollar store just to see what I could come up with. Now, granted, I'm not gonna put together a kit out of a dollar store, but there are things that you can get, and if you're really money savvy, if you're just don't want to spend a lot, if you're incredibly frugal, there are ways to do it. You're going to make concessions and sacrifices in quality, name brand, whatever it might be, but it can be done for very, very cheap. And just don't think that if you're strapped for cash that you can't do anything. Don't think, well, I don't have $300 to spend right now, so I'm not going to do anything. You don't need $300 to spend. You want to start preparing your household. Every time you go food shopping, you go to the grocery store once a week, throw down an extra $5. $5, that's it. Throw down an extra $5, throw a couple extra cans in the cart. Just to throw on the shelf, not part of your, weekly dinner plans or whatever it is. $5. Just throw a couple extra things on the shelf that you can use. And every time you go shopping, a couple more things will show up, a couple more things will show up. And if you plan it out and think through a little bit what those things are, eventually you're going to look and you'll be like, I got a pretty nice little nest egg. I can go an extra 3 or 4 days or whatever it is. I'm sure we've all seen those people who prep and have entire rooms of their home that look like the back of a Costco. Not everybody can do that. I don't think everybody needs to do that. I know for me, that doesn't serve my plans at all. If anything happens, if anything serious happens, I'm not gonna be here. So storing anything in this little tiny box of an apartment in New York City that I live in, there's no point because it's not gonna serve me any good. So money is a consideration. Everybody thinks about it. Nobody really talks about it.